Silva, two-time mayor of Walnut Creek and a member of the Walnut Creek City Council. And I'm delighted to be here this evening on behalf of the City of Walnut Creek to join in the Walnut Creek Concert Band's celebration of our centennial. Over the past 100 years, our community has created a tremendous performing arts legacy. And in the last 26 years, the Walnut Creek Concert Band has been a key part of that legacy. As we enjoy tonight's performance, I think we will all be reminded that music is not a solo performing art. Quite simply, it takes an ensemble of dedicated and talented people to create great musical entertainment. It takes the composer to write the music, and it takes the musician to play the notes. It takes the director to put the harmony together, and it even takes a manager to organize everyone. And, of course, it takes the teacher to pass on these great talents and create the next generation of musicians. So I am greatly honored tonight to be able to recognize on behalf of the community two members of our local community who have helped to create and sustain an amazing legacy of music in Walnut Creek and far beyond Walnut Creek, and whose legacy we hope will be sustained to our bicentennial. I'm going to start with Norm D, or as his students at Las Lomas High School called him, Mr. D. Mr. D? Mr. D is the consummate music educator, and as hundreds of his students would attest, he is a master at creating an environment that is challenging and demanding while at the same time being fun. He creates an environment that continually inspires great performances from the most unlikely people, high school students. Mr. D is in his 31st year of teaching in the Acalanes High School District. A little known factoid, he used to teach math, but he hated it. He spent 25 years creating exceptional, award-winning, renowned bands at Las Lomas High School. And then over the last 6 years, he has moved to Acalanes High School, where he is their director of instrumental music. Along with his teaching duties, Mr. D maintains an active schedule as a guest conductor, a clinician, an adjudicator, and a consultant. Among his many honors, in 2011, he received the Distinguished Service Award from the California Band Directors Association. And in 2010, he was named one of the 50 directors who make a difference in the United States, and that's one per state. I think California should have at least 20. Mr. D is a tireless advocate for music education in our schools, and last year he was the president of the California Music Educators Association. Quite honestly, his list of accomplishments and contributions is as long as a John Philip Sousa march. On a personal note, Mr. D, I bring you congratulations and greetings from Jacksonville, Florida, where your former 5th chair clarinetist, Miss Silva, is residing. And I also bring you greetings from the Black Sea, from her husband, Carson Hoffman, who was your contrabass clarinetist. They met in band at Las Lomas High School. Mr. D, your dedication and commitment to music education and our students have helped to create the next generation of musicians. Our music will live on because of you. On behalf of the community, thank you so very much for your dedication, and I would like to present you with a certificate of recognition from the City of Walnut Creek. One other story. When I was backstage tonight waiting with Harvey Benstein before the concert started, it was 7:20 and he said he was waiting for Mr. D, and I said, well, if Mr. D doesn't show up pretty soon, you need to tell him the following, which he teaches all of his students. To be early is to be on time. To be on time is to be late. Thank you for teaching that to my daughter. The other individual we will honor tonight is Robert Hummaker. Robert, would you please come forward? Our guest artist this evening, so it is very fitting that we are doing this, and this is a surprise, and it's a little bit of turnabout fair play. Remember the Diablo Symphony concert last year where you forgot to put the baton on the stand? Gotcha! Robert received his bachelor in music from California State University, Hayward, and over the years he has studied under such notables as Jack Van Gien, former principal percussionist with the San Francisco Symphony, and Jerry Neff, former principal percussionist with the Oakland Symphony. Among his many gigs, Robert is principal percussionist for the Vallejo Symphony Orchestra, for the Golden Gate Park Band, and for our own Diablo Symphony Orchestra. And he also manages personnel and is the stage manager for the Diablo Symphony. He plays with the Pacific Sticks Percussion Ensemble, and many times you'll see him in the pit here at the Lesher Center playing for Contra Costa Musical Theater and also Diablo Theater Company, and of course he's a member of the Walnut Creek Concert Band. Most recently, he has expanded his repertoire to composition and producing his own music, which you can find on iTunes and Amazon.com. And in his spare time, if that isn't enough, Robert brings his craft to the next generation by teaching private students in Walnut Creek, Pinole, and San Ramon. And he even, I can personally attest to his patience with his students. So each year the Diablo Symphony at their crab fundraiser auctions a guest percussionist opportunity. We pay hundreds of dollars to stand at the back of the band and realize you have to know how to count. So 2 years ago I was amongst a litany of guests of former mayors, and I, with the help of Robert and his fellow percussionists, learned how to play the bass drum for Exodus. You really do have to know how to count because there were 64 measures of nothing. Robert, your commitment and dedication to your craft and these musical groups is unparalleled. I am delighted to be able to recognize you and to be able to present you with this certificate of recognition from the City of Walnut Creek. I know all of your fellow musicians are tremendously delighted to have you amongst them. Thank you so much for what you give to us. Now please welcome back conductor Harvey Benstein for Civic Pride March, which is dedicated to the citizens of Walnut Creek, California.
we're all connected. And sometimes that connection weaves around life and then turns around on itself, and then all of a sudden you find yourself in an interesting place, like I am tonight. Back almost 30 years ago, I was in college, and 2 years in, a conductor shows up, and it's Maestro Benstein. So he became my conductor. Also at college, my composition teacher, Keith Gates. It circles around. Mr. Benstein ends up out here in California, becomes the conductor of the Walnut Creek Concert Band, commissions Mr. Gates to write a piece, the piece you're about to hear, in 2001. Just missed it. I got to California in 2002. So the premiere went on, and now we get to revisit the piece, and I have the privilege of conducting my teacher's work, which is quite emotional. He was too young when he died, and I can hear his voice. He used to send me handwritten manuscript scores, and back when computers were not as sophisticated now and music writing software was in its infancy, he would send me handwritten scores and I would enter it into the computer, and we would print parts for his music. So I got a unique perspective on his music from the inside out. So to be able to conduct it with a group is truly an honor. So please enjoy Keith Gates' Concert Overture.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Lauren Cafis. In addition to being a member of the band, I'm the president of the Walnut Creek Concert Band, and I'm delighted that you're here tonight. Do want to remind you that this organization is only partly funded by the City of Walnut Creek and partly funded by the ticket sales that you purchased today. So I want to remind you that during this time of budgetary concern, and it is the budget cycle for the City of Walnut Creek, we would love you to contact your council members and remind them how important this type of institution is to the city, and hope that you will take advantage of the opportunity with the envelope in your program to make a tax-deductible contribution to the Walnut Creek Concert Band. And again, thank you, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the concert.
Good evening. We have a number of people to speak tonight. I'm Charlie Abrams. I'm the former mayor of Walnut Creek, and also I'm on the board of directors for the concert band. Really, the reason I'm here is that 2014 is the centennial year for the city of Walnut Creek. 100 years ago, in October, the city was incorporated, and at that time it was a place called the Corners. An election was held, and this always amused me, to make this decision in October 16, 1914. The pitch was that Walnut Creek was no longer a country crossroads, and it was time to become a town. It had a vote in October, and the vote was 127 in favor and 67 opposed. It passed with a landslide. The issue at that time, too, was interesting. The issue was really that the merchants really wanted to get the streets paved in the city, and also to build a channel for a water system, because Main Street was consistently flooding during this period, as it has many times over the year. That was the beginning of the city. Tonight, let's celebrate the Walnut Creek Concert Band, the official band of the city of Walnut Creek. There are about 75 talented musicians who volunteer their time, let me repeat, volunteer their time to perform for us, musicians of all ages. It operates primarily on private contributions and ticket sales for events such as this. As Lauren mentioned, take a peek at that envelope that's in your program tonight, and contributions would be much appreciated. The band is now over 25 years old. That's not quite a centennial. They have been through their teenage years, and I like to think of them now as kind of gaining maturity in their mid-20s. Tonight we're really in for a thrill and a very special piece that the band is doing. There is a special piece commissioned for the centennial, to honor the centennial, commissioned by the band. It is called Commons by Rosalie Burrell, and I think it will be presented after the intermission. In any event, as we enjoy this wonderful music tonight, let us remember all the people who came before us in the last 100 years and made Walnut Creek the city we so love. Thank you.
So tonight I'm going to be playing a piece called Concertino for solo percussionist and symphonic band. It was written by James Curnow, who's actually a friend of our conductor Harvey Benstein. And it's in 3 movements like the standard concerto style, but it's concertino simply means it's going to be shorter. It's about a 12-minute piece, and concertos obviously would go longer, half hour or more. But the three movements, you have a fast movement, a slow movement, and a fast movement. And that's true in this piece. The first movement is written for timpani and multiple toms. Second movement is written for pitch percussion, mallet instruments, vibraphone, xylophone, glockenspiel. And the third movement is for drums, snare drum, tenor drum, and then some auxiliary percussion like tempo blocks, tambourine, triangle, a few other things thrown in there. So I'll have the whole front of the stage filled up and move from one area to the other as I move from one movement to the next. I'm a resident of Walnut Creek since I was about 6 years old, and I've been playing with the Walnut Creek Concert Band for probably going on 20 years. I haven't actually counted, but a long time. And I usually play just timpani in the back, and was asked for this concert if I would do a concerto to be soloed, partially because I've done a lot of community work with playing like with this band. Also I do Diablo Symphony and other community things, community theater. I've been involved with the Walnut Creek arts programs and concerts for most of my life. So Harvey was gracious enough to let me be featured on this centennial concert.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining us this evening and supporting our ensemble. It's great to have you in the audience. Our next piece we've had specially commissioned for the band and for the city of Walnut Creek. And it's by Rosalie Burrow, an area resident, a former member of the band when she was in high school, a former student of mine. And it's kind of like when you premiere a new piece of music, it's kind of like giving birth. Speaking of giving birth, my granddaughter was born yesterday. Unfortunately, Bethany lives in Dallas. It's too far away. So in a way, we're kind of giving birth tonight because music written isn't alive until it's heard. So we've been in labor and working on the piece and trying to refine it and get it going. And tonight is the big birthing of the piece. Sorry for the analogy, but it does make sense. And to kind of help you understand what was going on in the creation of this work, the composer's here from New York, so would you please welcome Rosalie Burrow.
So I actually grew up in Moraga, and I was a student of Harvey's for many years. And I grew up actually playing in the Walnut Creek Concert Band as well. So it's just such a joy to be back here, working with the band again, and especially with Harvey. It's been almost 10 years since I've been on this stage. So it's really just an honor to be back here, working with the ensemble. I think it's because of my history with this group and with this city that I was asked to write this piece. I've just known the band for so many years. So the piece is to commemorate the city's centennial. And when I was thinking about the last 100 years of this city, I couldn't think about the growth. It's gone through such tremendous change. I couldn't think about the growth of the city without thinking about the community and how some things really haven't changed at all. Like this band, for instance. It's been 10 years. There are still so many familiar faces sitting in the ensemble. So I really wanted to hear from all of them. The piece that I wrote is very colorful, and each of the instruments have a very distinct character. There are horn calls, and there are folk songs, and drum hits, and all these very distinctive characters that come out and really represent part of the community to me and this space that they have, where all voices are welcome, all opinions, all perspectives. I felt like it was a real reflection of the community at large.
So, again, kind of a little different programming than you're used to from us. And for our dear loyal subscribers and our donors and our followers, you look at what we do the whole year round, and there's a great variety of repertoire. I thought in programming this concert, we needed to do something special as we honor the city of Walnut Creek and its centennial, and these type of events will be occurring all year long. And so one might sit there and ask, well, why did the guy pick Carmina Burana? What does that have to do with Walnut Creek? Good question. It's not a band piece. I mean, it was written for orchestra and vocalists and images. But there's this wonderful transcription by John Cranston, and in doing, a great work of music. Carmina is about life. Yes, it's kind of a bunch of college students back in the 1500s running around and talking about life and doing things. But when you think of the city of Walnut Creek and families, and you think of spring and dancing and young love, you think of the eating and drinking establishments that are in the city. I mean, those are all prevalent in Carmina, and it's really kind of, although part satire, part a kind of look on a medieval life. And they had a lot of the same problems in their own way that we have in ours, a lot of the same struggles back in medieval times as we've had, from just finding out about life and questioning and enjoying. And now there's a section here about spring, and you look around outside at the green grass finally, and Mount Diablo and how beautiful it is, and it just kind of makes us appreciate nature. So we put together, we don't have a chorus, obviously, so we put together a little slideshow for you with some medieval art and images from most of it from the time period. And then if we had a chorus here, they'd be singing in Middle German and Latin, so you wouldn't understand it anyhow. So we put English subtitles up so you can kind of know what the music's about as we go along. So hopefully this will be fun. Thank you again for your support. Thanks for being here. Carmina Burana.